Bonjour and welcome back to my channel, Claude here. Today I'm going to be doing a VR to the hashtag called All About Tarot 2022 made by Simon at the Hermit's Cave. So I will leave the link to his video in the descriptions box below. And thank you, Simon, for this. I've had great fun doing it. There are 12 prompts, so 12 questions related to tarot, and I have timestamped in the description box below all of the prompts, so that if you're not interested in one, you can just jump to the next one. And also all of the decks that I talk about and show you, they'll be listed in the description box below. So let's start. The first one is your first deck and how you encountered it. So my first deck was not a tarot deck, it was more of an oracle deck, kind of. It was Le Jeu Divinatoire by Jaeger Didier. And this is very precious to me. It's written in French. It was given to me by my best friend's mom, who said to me, you should be reading cards, you have a gift. She was a tarot reader. She was also an aura reader. So the cards come at the back, they're like that. I've had it since I was 15, and let's just say I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so I've had that for a very, very long time. And this is the back. It's based on, loosely on Lenormand system, but just generally speaking on, it's an oracle deck. Obviously you've got all of the meanings of the cards. As I said, it's all written in French. What I find very interesting is the association, like you would see with the Lenormand. So you've got all of the possible associations, interpretations. It's a very, very good deck. And at the back you've got, you know, spreads and things. Beautiful book. Well loved, as you can see. I don't know if the camera is picking it, but it's, you know, really, yeah, well loved. And the cards look like this. So you've got les nouvelles, the news, les plaisirs, pleasures, l'étoile, the star, death and resurrection. I really like the association there. The fox. So you see when I say it's inspired by the Lenormand. The children, the house. So, you know, and you've got the man, the sun. I mean, I could show you all the cards, but you get the idea. And this was my introduction to reading cards, really. And then after that, I got a traditional Tarot de Marseille deck. So that was my first deck, and I cherish it. It's very special to me. So that was it. That was that one there. The second prompt is your last deck and how your tastes have changed since your first. Okay, now this is interesting because just before I decided to film this morning, I received the last deck I ordered. It was a Kickstarter. I backed it on a Kickstarter, and it's the Walking Meditation Tarot by Daniel Normand. As you can tell, it's still in its plastic. I've not opened it because, you know, I have a little ritual when I get a new deck, and obviously opening it would have kind of, you know, gotten in the way of what I wanted to do. But this is what it looks like. And it says, walk your magic through this 80-card nature-themed deck created to inspire you with your own walking meditation and nature bathing. May it entice your senses and bring you to calming equilibrium. Sorry, it's reflecting even for me to read. So this is a very earthy deck. Obviously I looked at the pictures on the Kickstarter campaign, and it's right up my alley. I go for an hour's walk every day, whether it's in the forest, by the sea, or, you know, in the fields, or a mix. So that's just perfect for me. And I got from this creator Odin's playbook. So I knew I would like the kind of deck it would be, because I love this deck. Now, Danielle Normand is a great creator, and she's also a lovely person. And she had done this one. And I'm just going to show you quickly a few cards so you can see what I mean about, she has an earthy style that I really like. And this follows the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. And this is obviously all Viking-y theme. I just really like the star. I like decks that are grounded earthy. But mind you, that's not the only decks I like anyways, but that was just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So yeah, that's the latest one, and I just got it today, so I will be reviewing it on my channel obviously. This one I've already reviewed, so you'll have a link in the description box below if you're interested, but I highly recommend this one, and I'm sure I'll be recommending this one too. So the next prompt is, why tarot? Okay, well, I believe in the prepared mind. In other words, I don't believe that you can predict the future per se, but I do believe that you can pick up on energies that are around you, and using tarot for me with a spread is a way of, you know, looking ahead and seeing possible things I might encounter, whether they're positive or negative. So if it's positive, you know, an opportunity that I may not have found if I had not done my tarot spread, or if there's a possible challenge or a possible problem, if I see it in the cards, I have time to think about what I can do and how I can react, instead of being reactive, you know, and reacting to whatever is coming my way. So that's why I use tarot. I've also always been fascinated by all sorts of divinations anyway, you know, runes, casting charms, casting bones, tea leaves reading, all of that. This is just, you know, right up my alley, but my love of cards is predominant, so that's why tarot is so important to me. The fourth prompt is tarot pet peeves. Okay, so I've got a couple, but actually, not tell a lie, I've got many pet peeves, but I went into depth on that in my no disclaimer video, which was a VR. So if you want to, you know, hear about a tarot rant, then it's on my channel. I'll leave you a link in the description box below. But my first one I'm going to mention here is intuitive readers. Now, it always makes me chuckle when people say, oh, I'm an intuitive reader, because to me, as far as I'm concerned, we are all intuitive readers. We all tap into our intuition to extract the meaning of a card, because cards have several layers, they have different meanings. And so whatever tarot deck you use, you know, you're going to use your intuition to extract the most appropriate meaning for the person you're reading. So yeah, intuitive readers kind of make me laugh. And also, I'm going to say it, I know it's not going to be popular, but I'll say it, there are many people who say they are intuitive readers because they don't know the meaning of the cards. Now, I know there are some people who think that you don't need to know the meaning of the cards to read. I disagree. You do need to have the basics of them, and then you tap into your intuition. But again, that's just my point of view, okay? So don't get angry at me. I'm just telling you how I feel about that. My second pet peeve is lazy pips in new decks that come out. Now, I don't have anything to show you because I don't buy those decks, but there are some creators who say that they're going to do a Tarot de Marseille style because they don't want to have to illustrate the pips, because obviously if you follow Rider-Waite-Smith, you're going to have to illustrate the 78 cards. And I find that kind of a shame and, you know, lazy, because they're just putting the amount of swords, for instance, and that's it, you've got a 10 of swords. What I like is people who use the Tarot de Marseille format and actually work on their pips, like this one. This is the Tarot Sirène by Wandering Oracle. Again, that has been reviewed in my channel on my tarot reviews. But you can see there's a lot of work that's gone on into the pips. And I like that. It's a sea-themed Tarot de Marseille type of deck. I really like that. You don't lose the essence, because you can read a lot actually from pips if they are intelligently done. But yeah, so that was my second pet peeve. I think that, you know, the creators who can't be bothered to draw the pips are kind of, you know, being dishonest towards the people who are buying their decks, because, you know, you either follow the Tarot de Marseille, or you follow the Rider-Waite's, or you do your own, completely own type of tarot, like the Dreams of Gaia. But generally speaking, if you go completely within your own system, you're going to end up drawing your pips, not just having numbers. So that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so enough of the negative. The next one is my favorite tarot spread. Okay, so my favorite tarot spread is basically the Celtic Cross. Now, I know this is not a very popular thing to say, but I'll say it anyway. Let me use Odin's playbook because I've got it right next to me to show you. So, for me, this spread here, let me make sure that it fits. This works really nicely for me. I like the fact that in the middle you've got the issue or the situation at hand and then the obstacle, or sometimes I choose to read them together to get more detail on the actual situation. What's at the bottom for me is the subconscious, how your higher self is trying to communicate with you, something that you may not be aware of. The above you is your current focus, which I think is very important, you know, to realize what it is that you're focusing on. The near past, what has influenced this situation. I also think this is important to understand where this is coming from. The near future, obviously, what to expect. Remember what I said about, you know, the prepared mind. The advice. The environment. I believe this is important to be aware of what's going on in your environment. Hopes and fears. And obviously the final outcome. Now, I know many people say, I don't think it's relevant, etc., etc. I personally think it works really well for me. Anyway, remember, this is just about, you know, what I think. It's not gospel. By no means is it gospel. It's just that works for me. I also really like the 9-card spread that Sylvain's was talking about on his video, and I did a VR to that. If you want to check it out, I really like the 9-card spread. Not just the tableau thing, you know, I'm talking about the 9-card spread that's on that video. That's really nice. But yeah, so I like a good old Celtic cross. I suppose I'm just very traditional. Okay, the next one is tarot rituals. Okay, so before I read the cards, I will always light either some incense or some tarts, you know, the melts, because to me smell is very important and it puts me into the zone, you know, to read. I'm very sensitive to smell, so I always make sure that this is how I start it. It sends a signal to my brain like, okay, relax. Then I have a special oil that I put on my hands and I massage my hands and every fingers, and I concentrate on the fact that I'm about to read the cards, and that I'm thankful that I've got hands that I can use to read the cards. You know, all of that. I'm not going to tell you everything that goes on in my mind when I do that, but there's a lot of that. And then I do a visualization whereby I connect myself to the other realm. You know, it's an internal visualization, and I do some breathing exercises whilst I do that, and then I'm ready to read. So that's my ritual before I read the cards. I also ask for my ancestors to be present. I always ask that. Okay, your preferred tarot system. Oh, I mixed them up. The tarot rituals was after. Oh, well, never mind. So, your preferred tarot system. Right, my preferred tarot system is the Tarot de Marseille. I have studied both the Tarot de Marseille and the Rider-Waite's, and I use them both, just so we're clear. But if I have to choose one, it will be the Tarot de Marseille, and I'm going to show you why. So, I'm going to illustrate my point. This is the Tarot de Marseille by Vincent Petici, which is my favorite Tarot de Marseille deck, and as you can see, I've put a bit of paper here because I've prepared it for this VR. You'll see why in a minute. And this is the Rider-Waite Smith, but the Albano one. And I'm also going to show you the one JJ Swiss, which is also by Vincent Petici. That's his version of it. The backs are like that. And I'm going to show you that. So the reason why I prefer Tarot de Marseille over Rider-Waite's is because I believe it's more open to interpretation and tapping into your intuition. So, I'm going to lay the cards I want to talk about. Now, I could talk about a million of them, but obviously I'm trying to make this as concise as possible. So this is what it looks like on the Tarot de Marseille. And with the one JJ Swiss, you get pretty much the same thing. It's just a different aesthetic, slightly more ornate maybe. And this is the Rider-Waite's version. So, the Two of Swords. Two of Swords, decisions, but not making the decision because you're protecting something. And it could be for different reasons, obviously, you know, lack of information, whatever. The Two of Swords here, kind of the same meaning, but there is a very defensive attitude there. And I'm finding it very difficult to ignore it. There are also people who say that this means, you know, blocking the passage for someone. I don't read it like that, and it pops in my head sometimes when I read, and I find it irritating. Because you can clearly see, actually, with all of those, that there is something growing within you, mentally, like an idea you're nourishing or nurturing, something. Here you don't have this aspect of the card, you just have the I'm not moving, standing still. Now my most disliked card of the Rider-Waite, the Three of Swords. Now firstly, I think it's actually quite lazy as compared to all of the other cards that are really nice in the Rider-Waite Smith. I mean, that's really not, yeah, anyway. But, okay, Swords is the suit of the mental realm. The Three of Swords, traditionally, with the Marseille Tarot, which, by the way, came first, is about a breakthrough. Okay, so this is the sword that pierces the undecisiveness that you were experiencing in the Two of Swords, right? As you can clearly see, this is a mental breakthrough. You're freeing yourself from it. In the Rider-Waite Smith, the Three of Swords, completely different thing. Sadness, heartbreak, feeling awful. Okay, feelings and emotions are water energy. They're to do with the Cups energy. We have the Five of Cups for that reason. I don't understand why this is, you know, related to heartbreak. I also think it's very difficult to see this as a positive card because this represents only one aspect of the card. Yes, a breakthrough can be painful. For instance, if your breakthrough is because some truths are exposed and the news that you hear breaks you free from your indecision and you can make a decision, it may hurt you because it may be that someone betrayed you. But this is one meaning out of the hundreds that are possible with this card. When you look at this card, however, this is all you see. So I find that very, very limiting. The Four of Swords. Traditionally, the Four of Swords talks about pushing against constraints. You know, like being enclosed and not being able to push through. With the Rider-Waite, we're talking about resting. He's dead, you know, like there's no more, you can't be resting more than when you're dead kind of thing. I find this picture haunting. I prefer looking at this and thinking about, okay, 4 is a number of stability, strong foundations, so this may represent mental stability, and on the shadow side, fighting against constraint, being trapped, which, yeah, you see where I'm going with it. The Five of Swords. I mean, I know there's a lot of swords, but I think it's more evident with the Five of Swords. But it's not just that. I'll show you the others. Same thing, okay? This is supposed to be the card of, you know, mean, winning at all costs. The Five of Swords is a card that indicates, you know, victory, doing things your own way. It's the card that basically breaks you free of the stability. This is a change. 5 represents change, and change is not necessarily negative. Change can be positive, you know, when we're stuck in a situation where we are, yeah, comfortable, but things aren't moving forward, it's nice to have a bit of a change, right? So it's not always negative, and if you look at the Rider-Waite Smith, all of the 5s are negative. And you see, 5 of Pentacles, being left out in the cold, as people say. Okay, the 5 of Coins is a change in your physical world, so it could be change of jobs, it could be, change of where you live. Yes, it can mean loss because you are disturbing the stability of the Four of Coin, but it doesn't have to be. It's just a change in your material realm. And then obviously you use the cards that follow to see if it's positive or negative. It is not necessarily this kind of dramatic change. In my mind anyway, remember, as I said, I use both systems. I tend to use all of the meanings together. Again, five of cups. When you look at the Five of Cups, you see that there's a cup in the middle. Here you see someone who is distressed, crying, regrets, not seeing that there could be better things in the background. The Five of Cups is an emotional change. Now, if you were feeling sad and the Five of Cups comes in and then you've got better cards afterwards, that's a positive emotional change in my mind. Yes, it can be negative, but not always. And as I said, I find the Rider-Waite-Smith so evocative in the imagery that it's very difficult for me to not concentrate on the negative when I read with it. And finally, the one I wanted to talk to you, but as I said, I could have picked way more, I just didn't want to bore you. The Four of Pentacles. So the Four of Pentacles, solid financial assets, stability in your material world. Rider-Waite's one, being a bit Scrooge-like, holding on too tight to your coins. Yes, on the shadow side of the card, yes, or the reverse meaning, if you will, but not necessarily. So what I'm trying to say is that I just find it way more open to read with Tarot de Marseille or the likes of the Tarot de Marseille, because I can tap in my intuition and gauge whether I need to read it in a negative way or not. Whereas with the Rider-Waite-Smith, I feel that there is a... Well, if you illustrate your pips, you are just illustrating one meaning of a card. You can't illustrate hundreds of meanings, right? So that's the problem of illustrating the pips. It's just you can't represent all of the meanings. I think that's what I was trying to say. I hope that makes sense anyway. So let me put them away because I don't have much space on my table. Right. The next one is, how do you use tarot? Introspection or divination and so on. Okay, well, I use tarot for different things. The first thing is and how I started it, was to communicate with my ancestors and the people who have passed on, that I knew. I use it to, communicate with them. And that's a very important element of my work, of my personal work. The second way I use tarot is visualization. So, for instance, when I'm trying to manifest something in my life, I choose a card and I concentrate on it and meditate on it and, try and gain the energy of the card. I also use it to meditate, not necessarily to manifest, but to meditate full stop when I want to have a focused meditation. So sometimes I stare at a card that I find interesting in a deck and I put myself into the card and I imagine what it would be like to live as the character in the card. So that's another way I use them. And finally I use it to check energies, just generally speaking, what is it like around me at the moment. So I'll do a tarot spread and as I was talking about having a prepared mind, seeing what's coming, when I was talking about why tarot, that's, another main aspect of my tarot work is to check the energies and see what's going on. I also like it to reflect on events, what was I supposed to learn from it, and that kind of thing. Okay, your significator card and why you feel it represents you. Right, so my significator card in the major arcana is the Justice card. So this is, by the way, the Bianco Nero Tarot, which is a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, which I really like, it's black and white. Now, I feel that Justice represents me because, well, since I was a child, I've always been about what's fair and what's not in life. I always try to seek the truth and be truthful. And I believe in cause and consequences, karma. I'm someone who will get very, very upset when I see unfairness and injustice happening, and it's the main thing. And I mean, even my husband says, oh my god, you know, you're so justice. By the way, this is the Sacred Bee Tarot. That's the justice card in there. I'm showing you some of the justice cards that I like. And that's the justice card in the Prism Tarot. So yeah, it's all about, to me, what's fair, what's not fair, making sure that there are no injustices. I was a teacher for 15 years, and that was the main thing in my job, you know, making sure that all my students were treated fairly. Was a big deal for me, and the kids always said to me, you know, I really like you because you're fair. So it's a big thing for me. And there's another one of my justice cards that I really love, that is from the Stolen Child Tarot. And as I said, all of those I've reviewed, so you can check that in the description box below. Now in the Minor Arcana, it's the Eight of Pentacles, and this is from the I believe it's called the Intuitive Night Goddess. That's it. I've also reviewed that deck. I love that deck, but for some reason I can't put the words in the right order in the title, but it's the Intuitive Night Goddess. So the Eight of Pentacles, because I like advancement, but I also like the slow pace, working at something, developing my skills, always learning, but still moving forward. So with the energy of the Eight, which is stable but with movement, and the Eight of Pentacles, which is earth energy, slower energy, applying yourself, working diligently. You know, it's all about the journey, not the destination, and I'm very much like that. I'm very much about the journey to reaching my Nine of Pentacles and ultimately my Ten of Pentacles. So in the Minor Arcana, this would be my card. And that's the back of the card, by the way. So that's that for this prompt. Most expensive tarot acquisition, I would say, is the El Goliath Tarot deck. Probably because, I mean, I've spent more money on decks, but it's on Kickstarters, and you know, you get extras with them, so it's very difficult to put a price on the actual deck when you're paying for extras. But this deck, as a single purchase, was, yes, probably the most expensive one. I don't spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on decks. I use a lot of them, but that was probably the most expensive one. And I love this deck. I think it's truly stunning. I tend to selfishly keep it for myself and not use it for my channel because it speaks to me. I like black and white or simple palettes when it comes to the aesthetic of my tarot decks. So yeah, that would be my most expensive purchase. But no regrets whatsoever, just so we're clear. I think it was worth every penny. And in French we have a saying that says, quand on aime, on ne compte pas, which means when we love, we do not count. And I love that saying, so there you go. Right, we're nearly done. Okay, the Unicorn deck, that's prompt 11, the deck that's so hard to find. Right, so my Unicorn deck is, I'm going to put it on my phone so you can see it. I hope I still have the page. It is the Spirit Keeper by Benabel Wen, but the Vitruvian edition. So I hope you can see this. And you can see it's a sepia palette. Now, it was published in 2019, you can tell from the top, but it's out of press. And I know she's had a third edition after that, but it's coloured, and this is not the same for me. I mean, it's still pretty, don't get me wrong, and she puts so much work in the artwork, in the details, in the meanings, in all of the systems she's put in there. But the one I wanted really was the Vitruvian, and unfortunately I didn't manage to get it. So it's that one there with the sepia edition. And finally, the last one, which is the Tarot Dinner Party guests. Okay, so one guest of honor plus two other guests, dead or alive. Right, so my guest of honor would be Mademoiselle Lenormand. So the young lady who created the Lenormand system, because she was incredibly accurate and she read for Napoleon. And I would love to have her at the table so she could tell me all about it, all about the readings she did. She also read for some very key people in the French Revolution. and forecasted the death of some of them, which did happen. And I just would love to hear the stories that she, could share with us. My second guest would be Benabel Wen, because I'm in awe of the work that she has put into her tarot decks, into her videos, into the books that she wrote. I also really like her as a person. She says a lot of things about her personality that rings true to me, like when she says, I'm not a teacher, these are just my views. She also says things like, she's not trying to be a leader or trying to force down her ideas and ideologies on people, which I really respect. I love that. So yeah, I think that it would be very interesting to have her there and have a talk about all of the other things that she's inputted into a tarot deck of a system. And finally, it would be Caitlin Matthews. I have reviewed her book, Untitled Tarot, The Lost Art of Reading Ancient Tarots. Now, I'm a big fan of hers because she's all about ancestral traditions and Celtic lore, and I believe that she would have many, many interesting things to say and contribute to the conversation with Mademoiselle Lenormand and Benabel Well. So that's it. That was my VR to Simon. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please do let me know in the comment box below what your thoughts are, if you agree or disagree with me. I just love talking about tarot, and quite frankly I have no one around me to discuss tarot, so that's why I do these VRs, in the hope that, people will talk to me. So whenever you watch this, I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you for stopping by. Your time is your most precious commodity, so I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again very soon. Until next time, au revoir.